today's session is number one of three. So we've got 3 sessions running called Creating Professional Templates in Word. And this first one is focused on styles and structure. So what we're going to be looking at today is how you would go about starting to create a template. So if you were looking at creating a branded template, how you would kind of think about exactly what you wanted from your template, who it's aimed at, how you're going to structure that. And then we will focus on creating styles. So I'll explain a bit about what styles are if you're not sure, and then we'll look at going in and creating those styles that can then be used by individuals within the template. So that is today's. A little bit of a spoiler alert there. That's the images of the template that we'll be looking to create over the next 3 sessions. So today is styles and structure. So the text that you can see in there, for example, we're going to be formatting that, creating styles. In 2 weeks' time, we have layout and navigation. So that's going to be looking at things like your section breaks. We're going to be looking at headers and footers, page numbering, table of contents, so getting all of those set up within your template. I don't have the table of contents image on that page, but there will be a table of contents in there as well. And then the third and final webinar of this project will be focused on visuals and graphics. So any graphics you can see there, like the borders, the line at the bottom of the header, we've got some text boxes, some quotation marks. We will look at those in the third webinar. And then after we finish this project, we'll move into other projects. I think the next project is Excel. And again, we'll have 3 webinars covering an Excel project. So hopefully it doesn't matter if you can't join us for all of them. Like I said, they will be recorded, popped on our YouTube page. It also doesn't matter if you're not someone who will be creating a template. So we will go through it from the perspective of someone that is creating a template from scratch. But it might be that actually you already have a template within your organization and you just want to learn a little bit more about how it's made, what's behind the scenes, and how to work with it. And if you do need to make any changes, how you would go about doing that. So what I wanted to cover today, first of all, is the purpose of templates. Why would we bother trying to create a template? And also the template best practice. So what are we really looking to achieve from our template? What are some things that we should do? And what are some things that we should avoid? How to get started, so how to plan that template, how to plan your pages out. And then the first thing to do is saving that template, the file format we would save it in. We will then look at creating those styles, those paragraph styles, so the text that users will be working with when they're using our template. Excuse me. We are also going to create multi-level numbered styles as well. So the first styles we'll look at will just be your paragraph styles, so your heading styles. We'll create 3 levels of heading so that they can be used within the template. But I know often, particularly within law firms, we're looking for a multi-level numbered style as well. So 1, 1.1, 1.1.1, that text, we're going to create that using a multi-level numbered style, and how we'd also go in and edit that if there were any changes to make later on. So why use templates within Microsoft Word? The first reason is consistency. So obviously, if everyone is working off the same template, it means that our documents are going to be consistent. They're going to look professional. They're going to have the same branding, the same formatting, structures, colors, fonts, layouts. It might be that you have several templates. So you might have, a template for maybe more graphic kind of brochures or marketing material. You have another template for maybe your more formal documents that are largely going to be text. Or it might be that everyone's working off the same template, but they're all using it in slightly different ways. Time and efficiency. So yes, it is going to take some time to set up this template to start with, but once I've then distributed that out to everyone and everyone's clear on how they're going to use it, it's going to make it a lot quicker for them to just get started, open the template and begin working on it, rather than every single time people are trying to find the right fonts or the right formatting or the right images to use. It also reduces user error as long as the template is set up well. Obviously, if you've created a template that's very hard to use, then perhaps not. But the idea is that we're going to be creating a user-friendly template that's going to be easy, like I said, for people just to open up and begin working straight away. They're not going to have to be editing the styles, creating their own table of contents, formatting their page numbers to make sure they start on the right page. We are going to do all of that for them. Template best practice. So establish a strong branding foundation. So don't just rush into it and think, well, Kiz has a purple logo, so I'm just going to pick a purple within Microsoft Word. We need it to be the correct purple, so we need to make sure that we've got that color palette set up. If there are any particular fonts that we use within our organization, any logos, perhaps any images, it's always best to speak to your marketing team first. They are always the best people to know about kind of the branding guidelines that you need to be following. Create a clear and consistent style set, which is what we will be doing today. Styles are so important because when you're creating styles within a document, you are making sure that you are giving people options for that text formatting. We are going to give people a big, bold first level heading. We're going to give them a subheading. We're going to give them a third level heading. We're going to give them the multi-level numbered headings. So they're able to go in and use those really easily. And again, they will all be set up exactly how we want them to look. We need to make sure that we are setting up our page layouts and structure correctly, which we'll be looking at next week. So the importance of using things like section breaks. So if you're not familiar with section breaks, they mean that we can apply different formatting throughout a document using sections. So for example, starting your page numbering on page 3, or having one page in the middle of the document that's landscape. So by creating those section breaks, we can make sure that we put that different formatting in place. Also, we can include pre-built examples. So we're going to make sure that we have a table of contents in there. If people don't need it, they can delete it, but it's in there. We might make sure that we have a table in there that's formatted in the correct way. Again, if they don't need it, they can get rid of it, but at least it's there for them to use. We're going to keep our template simple and user-friendly. We're only going to provide elements that users need. So ideally, you would have multiple templates for different scenarios so that someone's not loading it and they're having to delete lots and lots of things that they're not going to be using. We want to make sure that our templates are stored centrally. What we do not want to happen is we're just emailing templates to everyone. Everyone's going into kind of their own version, maybe editing it, maybe changing it a little bit. We want people to access that centrally, so that will either be on a shared drive perhaps, or more likely, and certainly more recently, people obviously moving across to SharePoint and Teams. So having that in a central location which everyone can access. In the last session, we will discuss where to save a template, and I will talk about how to upload a template into SharePoint or Teams. Teams is SharePoint behind the scenes, and how to set up those permissions. What we don't want people doing is opening up that template, and as soon as they start typing, it's overwritten the template. Okay, I'm sure you've seen that before. Oh, we had a template to use within our department, but so-and-so went in and created it for this client, and now it's not blank anymore. It's got all of that client's information in. So we need to make sure that that template is maintaining its structure and its kind of emptiness for people then to go in and edit and do like a save as, so it's saving it as a new document. It's very likely, even if your template is really nice and straightforward, that you are going to have to provide some form of training or documentation. That might be a brief 10-15-minute training session for everyone, or a quick video that you put together, because again, people might not have worked with table of contents before. They might not know how to update a table of contents. They might not know how to apply a style to a heading that they've created. And if people get stuck and they're not sure how to work with something, that's when they're going to go and find their own way and say, well, actually, I'll just make it bold and purple myself. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly correct. So that training is really important. And keeping the template up to date. The number of times I've seen old templates and we're opening templates, oh, actually, that's our old logo, or actually, we don't really use that heading anymore. So it's there, but we don't use it. Again, that's going to make it harder for people to work with. So we need to update it with any branding changes. We also need to encourage feedback as well. So if a whole entire department is saying, actually, we don't use heading 2, so why is it even in there? We need to be able to chat to them about that. If no one's using it, why do we need it? Or do we need to change it to something else? When you're planning your template, who will be using the template? Who is your target audience? Is it going to be the whole of your organization? Is it going to be one particular team? Who's going to be using it, and what will they be using it for? Do we need lots more graphics? Is it going to be more of a structured document? Do we need to put a table of contents in there? So working that out is really important. What will be included? So yeah, tables, table of contents, graphics, columns. And is there any pre-existing material? So you may have already had a template, but you're just looking to update it. Is there anything that you can grab from that template? And like I said, any graphics, particular colors or mock-ups. I've worked with a firm before who actually had a design agency design their template for them. So they designed all of the all of the sizes of everything, all the fonts, how it was going to look, and they passed it to me, and then I created it within Word. So this is our brief that we're going to kind of imagine, and we've received an email. Hi Sabrina, please can you create a Microsoft Word template using the KISS branding? It must include a cover page, a table of contents, and different styles of headings for staff to use. The technical team regularly use multi-level numbering, so please include this as an option. We would also like the ability to add graphic elements such as text boxes and tables. I look forward to seeing what you put together. So just to kind of chat about the styles, and then we'll move ahead with the demo. What I'm talking about when I mean styles is we're getting our paragraph styles. So these ones here, we are going to create today a main heading, or like a first level heading, and with the formatting that you see here, or as close to it. I'm going to try and remember exactly how I formatted that one. A subheading, and then also a smaller heading, like a heading 3 or a topic heading. We are also going to create a multi-level number style that looks very similar to this one, and we're going to create another style as well. We might do that on the third session. I'll see how we go, but we can have other styles in a document, maybe for important paragraphs that need to stand out. It's not necessarily a heading, but it's something that we need to be able to apply to add that kind of extra visual element. So hopefully that all makes sense so far, and I am just going to open a brand new Word document. So we are literally starting from scratch. Okay, so first thing I would always say before you start creating your styles or anything is just to check the setup of the page. So I'm referring to things like the orientation, the page size, and the page margins as well. Because you're going to be able to grab those from your layout tab. So these ones here. Okay, because if we do this later on, it might throw things out, particularly when we start adding graphics and things like that. So make sure your margins are okay and you're happy with them. I'm just going to stick with normal for today. You have got the preset options, so for example, narrow, or you can go into custom, and if you have a specific, size or width that you want them to be, you can go in and adjust your top left, bottom, and right margins within this page setup. Orientation, so we're going to stick with portrait, and your page size. So again, I'm going to stick with A4, but it might be that you're creating maybe a template for kind of marketing leaflets or something, and maybe you want to work with A5. Okay, so we'll stick with A4 for that one. I am also going to save my document now. I am going to save it as a template. So to do that, I'm going to go to File, Save As, and under this drop down here, I am going to save it as a Word template or a .docx. Okay, now when you're saving it as a .docx, sometimes you will notice that when you change this drop down to Word template, notice how my file path has changed. Okay, because Word likes you to save the templates within this custom Office templates folder. That's where it grabs the templates from when you open Word and you click New and you go into Browse your templates. However, it might be that you don't want to save it there, in which case you would then need to navigate to a different location. So I'm actually just going to save it to my desktop, and I am going to call it, I'm just going to call it Word template for now. Okay, save. I'm saving it as a template because when I start creating my styles in a moment, I want to save those to the template. So when you're creating your styles, there will be an option to say save this this style that I'm creating and make it available in future documents that use this template. So it means if someone's coming in and uses a template, they open up and the style I've created is going to be there. You do need to be careful when you're editing your template. So now that I've saved it, let me just close it and I will show you how this works. It is on my other desktop, so I will just find it over here. Here it is. Right, move across here. You might notice the icon is slightly different because it's a template. Now, if I just double click on it, it is going to open as a new document. So it has opened as a document 2. So if I start working on it and click save, it is going to force me to save as a new file. Okay, which is exactly how we want our templates to work. So particularly if you're saving them in a central location, you want to stop people being able to easily overwrite them. So if people open the template, it is forcing them to do a save as and save it as their own document. Okay. However, what do we do if we actually want to edit the template? We right click on it and we select open. Okay, and when we right click and select open, rather than double clicking on it, it's opening the template itself. So we can see at the top there it says Word template. It doesn't say document 1, document 2, whatever it is. And if I click save now, it's going to just override the template. Okay, so remembering to right click open rather than double clicking. Like I said in the third session, we will look at saving the template to SharePoint or Teams. In that case, it is going to work a little bit differently, and we are actually going to set up permissions of who can edit and who can just use the template, but we'll cover those off in week 3. So we've checked our margins, we've checked our orientation, and we've saved it as a template. I also want to go through and just kind of mark off which pages are going to be used for what. So I'm just going to put in some really basic placeholders in here. The first one is going to be our cover page. So I'm literally just going to write cover page just so I know what's going to be there and I don't forget. Once I put in that placeholder, I'm going to insert a page break to move to the next page. Okay, so if you're not familiar with page breaks, we can do insert page break. It moves my cursor to the next page. Alternatively, Control and Enter is the keyboard shortcut. And if I turn on my paragraph marks, you'll notice in here there's a page break. Now we will do that for now because if I put in a page break, it's meaning we're moving on to the next page and we've got a clear break in there. If I didn't insert a page break and I just went enter, 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 all the way down to the next page, when I start putting content in here, it's going to push the content on the next page down because all of those enters that I've added are all going to move down, 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 down. Okay, so the page break we're going to use is going to help us eliminate that issue. We are next week going to look at section breaks, which I mentioned. So it might be, later on down the line we're replacing this with section break, but right now we're just going to put in a page break so that we've clearly moved on to the next page. On my second page, I want to have my table of contents. So I'm just going to put TOC in there. And again, page break down to the next page. I then want to start my content in here. So this is where I'm going to start setting up my styles because I'm going to have them available for users within the document. And I'm going to have some example styles in here. They can quickly go in and add their own text. So we'll get started on the styles. Now, already within your document, you will have styles available in here. So in the Home tab, this area here is referred to the Styles Gallery. If you attended our webinar a few weeks ago called Taming the Nightmare Document, we did a lot about styles. We did applying styles and we did kind of what to do if styles go wrong and they don't look quite right. So you'll be familiar with this area. If I click the drop down in my styles gallery, I can see some of my styles available. Okay, yours might look slightly different to mine because within mine I've already played around with them a little bit, so they're slightly different to kind of the defaults that you get within Word. So we've got our heading 1, we've got heading 2, heading 3, and we've got some other styles available as well. Now, when I'm creating my kind of main heading style, I am going to work using the heading 1 style to start with, because if I click heading 1 and I begin typing, it's using that information from the heading 1 style, and we can then create a new style based off that heading 1 style. So what that means is some of the properties, so for example, the fact that that heading 1 style is going to be brought into our table of contents is going to help us because we're pulling that information through rather than having to just completely start from scratch. Okay, so I've started with my heading 1 style. I've typed in the text that I want to use as kind of a placeholder so that when people are using this template, they can kind of see, okay, that's my heading, that's what I can use as my heading style. What I can then do is I can click this drop down and I can click create a style. And I'll give it a name. I'm going to call it main heading. And I'm going to click modify because I want to change it a little bit. I don't want it to look exactly like that. So I'm going to click modify. This is my style area here. So we've got the style name. It's based on heading 1. So like I said, that's the reason we clicked on that one to start with. It's going to help us with things like our table of contents. Also importantly, we've got the style for the following paragraph. So what that means is when someone's typed in this heading and they press enter, what style is going to be applied to that next paragraph. I don't want it to be main heading. I want it just to be normal. So my normal text is just my kind of your standard text. I think ours is Calibri 11. So it's just going to move down to the normal style. I then have some of the basic formatting options within here. Excuse me. So I can change the font and the size. I'm going to make it quite big. So we're going to make it 26. We want it quite big, quite bold. My color is already set to the KISS colors, but I could click that drop down. And like I said, you should be working off like a hex code that marketing team or branding team has given to you. So you can go into more colors and you can actually put in so either the hex or the RGB. So you've got the exact color that you need. We've then got things like the alignment and the spacing. Under the format is everything else. So if you haven't been able to put in something specific, so for example, I always want my main heading to be in capital letters. Or if you want additional paragraph options, then we can come into here and I'll click font. And then, for example, I can turn on all caps. So it's going to look like that. So even if someone types in lowercase, it's going to automatically come out in uppercase. I'll click OK. I can see a preview there of what it's going to look like. I also want to make sure that I'm selecting this option here. So this is what I was mentioning when we saved it as a template. New documents based on this template. So if someone was to create a new document based on this template, this main heading style would be included. So I'll click OK. That's automatically updated to the formatting that I chose. And if I click this drop down now, we can see that that style is available in our styles gallery. So I'm just going to press enter. We can see that it's moved to my normal style, my normal text, like that. And we'll put in our second heading. So I'm going to base this off heading 2. Again, that's going to help me with things like my table of contents and bringing in those kind of properties that we would expect to have with a second level heading. So I'll click on heading 2. I'm just going to type in subheading. That's what I want to call it. And again, click the drop down arrow, create a style, and I'm going to call it subheading. And again, I'll click modify and set this up how I want to. I'm going to make it italic. I'll keep it bold, but let's maybe make it like a dark gray, like that. What I also want to do as well, actually I'll make it a bit darker, is add some shading over the top of it, again, just to make it stand out a little bit more. For your shading, I'm coming into format and then border. And in here, we've got the borders tab and we've got shading. So we could add a border around the text, which I'll do as an example in the next one. Or you could add some shading across the paragraph. So it's not like highlighting where it's just the word which is highlighted. We're actually going to add shading across the whole of the paragraph, which again can be quite nice for kind of visual things like reports and marketing material and so on. So let's fill that with the grey. Again, if I wanted to be really specific, I could maybe find out the KISS secondary colours. Maybe there's a KISS grey and I could go in and specify that one, but I'll just choose it for now. We want to apply it to the whole paragraph. I'll click OK. Again, we're making sure we're making that available in new documents based on this template. I'll click OK. There we go. And we've got a subheading. Actually, I might make that a little bit bigger just because that 26 and then the 12 is quite a big jump. So I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Now, if you need to edit your style, we'll just right click on the style, modify, and then we can go back and change it in here. OK, so we'll do 14. Yeah, looks a little bit better. Oh, I don't think I changed. Yeah, I didn't change that setting of when we move to the next paragraph. So you can see when I'm moving to the next paragraph now, it's still keeping it as a subheading, which we don't want. All that part of making it user-friendly. If someone came in here, they typed a heading and they pressed enter, they wouldn't expect to have another heading straight away, and it might throw them off. So let's go back in, right-click on subheading, modify, and we'll make sure the style for the following paragraph is going to be our normal style. There we go. So press enter now, it goes to normal. We'll do one final heading. So we're going to use our heading 3. We're going to call this our topic heading or a third level heading. And again, exactly the same. So we'll go in, or right click, sorry, not right click. We'll create a style. I'm going to call it topic heading, modify, and I'm going to make this black. It's going to be normal, I think 11 point. And I want to show you the borders. So I'm going to add just like a little border along the top of it. So I'll go to format, border, switch to the borders tab. And now in here, we've got different borders. A box is the most simple. It's just going to be lines around it rather than trying to add a shadow or 3D or anything like that. And here you can select the style. So we could have maybe dash lines. We could have more of a dots, whatever it is you want to have. So I'll have kind of a dots, I think, in there, maybe those ones. The color. So maybe we'll make it the kiss purple like that, and also the width as well. I'll keep it quite thin, so I don't want it too large. Now, if I clicked OK now, it would apply that around all of the text, all of that heading. So along the top, down the sides, along the bottom, which you might like. We're just going to put it along the top. So I'll just click on these, and you can see they toggle off the lines on the respective side. So toggle off that one. Toggle off that one, and now we've just got a dash line going across the top. So I'll click OK, and new document based on this template, and also our next paragraph is going to be normal. Click OK. See how that looks? Yeah, that looks quite good. I might just make it bold actually. I'll just go back in, right click. I don't think it stands out quite enough as a. There we go. That looks a bit better. Okay, so we've got our 3 levels of heading, and when people use this template, they are going to see those in the top here. Okay, now what you might think is, well, actually there's some styles in here that maybe some people won't want to see. We don't want to have heading on there because it might be a bit confusing. People might go in and start editing it. So we can go in and right click on any that we don't want people to be able to see. And we can remove them from the style gallery. So what that means is it just hides them away. They are still available within the document, but it just means if you've got any other here, like emphasis or intense quote, we can right click, remove them, so that we are giving people just a few options in there that they can use rather than kind of confusing matters and giving them lots of options. Okay. So we've got our 3 headings in there. I want to leave them there as placeholders so people can come in and see what they look like. They can use them if they need them, or of course they can just delete them if they don't want them. I will also add some text as well, again just to pad it out and show you what it's going to look like. And later on, I think next webinar we're going to be looking at columns and things like that. So I am just going to put in some text so that there's something there and you can see how it's starting to lay out. This text here, if you did want to include just some basic text within your documents, it's probably worth, unlike me where I've just put in some kind of generic text, using that space to actually explain your template. So putting in there, what you're expecting for people in terms of use of graphics, maybe a little hint about how to use the styles. So it's not just wasted space. So when they're opening the template, yes, they can delete it, but they've still got a little bit of a placeholder there, and it's adding something to that template as well. Next, I'm going to work on my multi-level numbered styles because again, not everyone's going to use them in here, but we want those available for those that do. I am going to move to the next page. That's just personal preference because I want to separate them from here. So I'm just going to insert page break, Control Enter, and I'm going to move down to here. And this is where I'm going to start setting up my multi-level numbered styles. They are a little bit more complicated than your standard paragraph styles, but I will take you through all of them. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to again start with the headings, which I've just got rid of. If you ever want to access the styles that you've removed from this styles gallery, you can click this icon here and it will open up your styles pane, which you can drag and resize, and we've got those available in here. Okay, now I again am going to start with heading styles, just because again for the sake of things like our table of contents, and we want to be pulling through the properties of our heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, so that when we're using those multi-level numbered styles, those are pulling through into table of contents and so on. So I'm going to start from my heading 1. I'm then going to type in the placeholder that I'm going to use within my document. I'm going to call it my level 1 heading. I'm also going to have my second level, which I'm just going to call level 2. I'm going to have my third level, so I'm using my heading 3, level 3. And I'm going to have 4 levels. Obviously, you could have more, you could have less. My level 4. Now, obviously, at the minute, the formatting is way off, so we can go in and change those. Also, they don't have any numbering, so we're going to add that in a minute. So probably best thing to do here is just to go in and kind of bulk format them all together. So we can change maybe the color. It's always going to be black. I'll turn off the italics on the last one. Maybe we want the level 1 heading to be bold, but not the others. So I'm just going in and just formatting the way I want them to look, making sure they're all the same size, the same font. So we're starting to get that, that formatting that we want. The other thing that we've got in here that might not be immediately obvious, but if you look, for example, between level 2 and level 3, and between level 3 and level 4, there's a larger gap between 2 and 3 than there is between 3 and 4. So it's not just the font settings that you need to be looking at, it's also the paragraph settings as well. So your line spacing, your paragraph spacing. Some of those basic options can be found in here, but if you're doing something as technical as styles and multi-level numbered styles, it's best to use this this dialog box option here and actually go in and view these and edit them really specifically. Okay, so for example, I might say I want 6 points before each paragraph, 6 points after each paragraph. Maybe I just want single line spacing. Okay, and when I click OK, we can see that spacing's evened out. Okay, so minus the numbers, it's starting to look how I want it to look. Okay, I might also maybe want this one again to be in all capitals. So we'll open up that font dialog box and we'll turn on all caps and click OK. All right, so we've got that in there. I now need to make styles from each of these. So the same process that we had before, we're going to be going in and in our level 1 heading, clicking on that one, create style, and I'm going to call it level 1 heading. I've already formatted it the way I want it to look, but I still need to go into modify because I still need to change things like the style for the following paragraph. I don't want people to type a level 1 heading and when they press enter they get another level 1 heading. I want to move it across to the level 2. I haven't created the level 2 yet, so I'll need to come back and edit that in a moment. I also need to make sure that new documents are based on this template. I'll click OK. With the level 2, same thing. So we're coming in here, create a style. I'm just going to call it level 2. We will modify, and the style for the following paragraph I'll keep as level 2 because if you're, say, writing your 1.1, you've typed a long paragraph after 1.1, you press enter, you would expect it to be 1.2, so it would still need to be that level 2 style. We're okay with the formatting in there, so I'll click OK. Our level 3, so I'll click on that one, create a style, we'll call it level 3. Modify, again, style for the following paragraph will be level 3 and our level 4. So create a style, level 4, modify, and again, style for the following paragraph will be level 4. Click OK, and I just need to go back and modify that level 1 heading. So I'll just right click, modify, and just make sure that the style for the following paragraph is going to be our level 2. So when you've typed 1, for example, you've typed your heading, you press enter, it's going to go to 1.1 after that. So I'll click OK. So we've got them all looking how I want them to look. And we've set them up as styles, and the only thing we're missing now is the numbering. So the numbering and the multi-level numbering comes under this icon here. So when you hover over it, it says multi-level list, not to be confused with just your standard 1, 2, 3 numbering. So on the multi-level list, I'll click the icon, the drop down to the right side, and we are going to go to define a new list style. And we're going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it KISS multi-level. Again, some of the basic formatting isn't here, but the most important thing is we're going to be going across to our format button and going into the numbering and opening up this. Okay. I'm also going to click more at the bottom because this box is not all of the options that we need. If I click more, it opens up these options to the right hand side, which we are going to use. This is one of these dialog boxes in Word that when you open it, you think, oh my goodness, where on earth do I start? But once you understand the meaning behind each of the drop downs and each of the boxes, and perhaps you've had a little bit of a play around with it, it starts to make a little bit more sense. So essentially what we've got in the middle here is our preview. So that's going to show us how our multi-level list is going to look. On the left-hand side, we have our levels. These are the levels in our list. And you notice that when I'm clicking on those, it's selecting the corresponding level in the preview. Okay, so I can see which one I'm working on, and you will notice the settings changing underneath as well. Okay, so we always need to make sure that we've selected the level that we want to edit. I am only working with 4 levels in my multi-level style, just because that's what I chose. So I'm only going to go up to 4. Obviously, you can go all the way up to 9. So I'll select my first level here. Now, on the right-hand side, we need to tell Word that this multi-level list is going to be using those styles that we just created. So in the drop-down on the right side, I need to tell it that this first level is going to use the style level 1 heading. Okay, so when people go into this multi-level list and they start typing in their first level, excuse me, it's going to use the formatting that we set up a moment ago, the bold and so on, and the paragraph spacing, the font size that we have for our level 1 heading. Underneath is our formatting for this level. So at the moment, it will be the number, for example, 1, and then it will be a bracket. I don't want it to be a 1 and then a bracket. I want it to be maybe a 1 and then a dot. Okay, so we can simply delete that bracket and type a dot. Okay, and you'll notice that the preview has changed at the top. You can change the number style. So if you didn't want 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe you wanted A, B, C, D, or Roman numerals or something like that, you can change that here. Okay, but I'm going to stick with 1 for now. We can go in and change the font, but I'm going to leave it as it is. We're also obviously starting at 1. For the position underneath, this is where you're looking at things like your alignment. So where's the number starting? Is it starting kind of flush against the margin? Is it indented slightly? And then where is your text starting? Is it going to start right kind of squashed just after the number? Or are we going to put like a little bit of a space in between the two so that our text is lining up, our numbers are lining up? Again, that's going to be up to you. And again, it's one of those things that does take a little bit of playing around with. You'll notice when I'm changing this, you can see the preview changing. But it is going to be something which you might play around with, click OK. And then once you set up the other levels, you think, actually, that's not quite right. And you can go back and edit it again. I have written down the alignments that I like on my notes on the left side. So I like to have aligned at 0. I like that first level heading to be against the margin. I'm going to do my text indent at 1.27 and my tab at 127 as well. So it's all nicely aligned. You can see it there. Now you can change the alignment for each level. So I can say actually level 2 is going to start here and the text is going to be aligned here. It can get a little bit messy, particularly if some of your numbering is longer than other numbers. So for example, 1 is a lot shorter than 1.1, which is shorter than 1.1.1. So you can sometimes, if you've not worked it out very well, you can end up with those larger numbers being quite squashed against the text and not really lining up very nicely. So there's a brilliant button here called Set for All Levels, which takes your formatting of the first level that I've done, and then it kind of confirms that you want to move ahead and just indent it by a particular amount each level. It saves you having to do the maths yourself. We click OK, and you'll notice how they've all now moved across. Okay, we can always come back and edit it later if it's not quite right. I'll move to my second level. The link level to style is going to be my level 2. So I've popped that in there. I don't want it to be A, I want it to be 1.1. Okay, so I'm just going to delete what's in this box. Now that we're on the second level, so it gets a little bit more fun, we have to use both of these drop downs here. Okay, this one is the number style for this level, for number 2. This is including a level number from a previous level. So if you think about 1.1, okay, that first one is the level, is the number from the previous level. Okay, so if that previous level says 1, then it's going to say 1. If the previous level says 2, then it's going to be 2.1. Previous level says 3, it's going to be 3.1. So that first number before the full stop is going to be the number from our first level. So in here, where it says include level number from, we're including the level from level 1, and it puts it in there. Okay, that's the number pulled down from level 1. I'm then just going to type a dot. Okay, so we'll just type the dot in. We then need the number from this level, from level 2. So that's this drop down, number style for this level. And I want to use, again, 1, 2, 3. So it's formatted like that. Okay, 1.1. Level 3, so we're linking it to level 3. Again, I'm deleting what's in here. We're including the level number from level 1 to start with, then a dot, then we're including the level from level 2, then a dot, and then we're including the number from this level, level 3, and I want to use 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's what makes it 1.1.1 or 1.3.4 or whatever it is. It's the first level, dot, second level, dot, third level. Number 4, again, I'll delete what's in here. I'm going to do this a little bit differently just so you can see how we can play around with different styles within the same, or different formatting and numbering options within the same style. Obviously, if I wanted 1.1.1, we would do level 1 dot, level 2 dot, level 3 dot, and then 1, 2, 3. But I'm going to make it slightly different. Let's say I just want this to be Roman numerals. So I'm going to say number style for this level. We'll do lowercase Roman numerals. Maybe I'll put it inside brackets, like that one there. And I need to remember to link it to my level 4. Okay. I'm not changing these because remember I set it for all levels earlier on. So we've got a level 1 heading, level 2, level 3, and level 4. So I'll click OK. We can see our preview there. I'll click OK. And there we go. Okay. I would leave that as a placeholder because, again, from a user's perspective, it's much easier to load a document and say, oh, okay, this is what my level 1 heading is going to be, this is what level 2 is going to look like, rather than just them opening a completely blank document and they're thinking, where do I start? They can then obviously delete it if they don't need it. But as they move through, because of those settings I set up when I said the next paragraph will be level 1 or the next paragraph will be level 2, when they begin to edit it, okay, the numbering is changing. Oh my goodness, that second one hasn't changed. That next one is, what's that one not changed? Maybe I just need to type them out again. There we go. And when they press tab, it will move through to the next level, okay, or enter to return back to the previous one. So let's put the placeholders in again. I don't know why that one didn't quite work. There we go. Level 4. Okay. So we'll leave that with those placeholders in there for people to use, but they are still included within this styles pane over here. and within the gallery at the top. Okay, so if people did just want to apply it to different text, they could absolutely click on the text and say, actually, I want that to be a level 2, and it would do that for them. Okay, perfect. I think that's it for the first demo. So this is what we've got so far. Next week, we are going to be looking at more of the structure of the documents. We've got our styles, but next week we want to be looking at things like adding our headers and footers. I want to add page numbering. I don't want the page numbering to start on the first 2 pages. I want that to start on page 3. So we're going to be using some section breaks. And we're going to go from there and look a little bit more at the structure of the table of contents, which styles we're pulling in to our table of contents as well. So let me just switch back to this one. So this is what I was just mentioning in here. There we go. So layout and navigation on the 4th of March, and then we've got visuals and graphics, which is where we're going to be putting in like the borders, the images. And we'll make that style in the graphics as well, that one with that nice kind of shading behind it and things like this, the text boxes with the quotation marks on the 18th of March. So hopefully you can join us for that. Just before we have any questions, I just want to mention again our YouTube channel. I've put the link in here. I'll paste it into the chat as well. We have lots and lots of videos on our YouTube channel. Please take a look at those. We've been running these webinars, I believe, for over a year now. So we've covered lots and lots of topics. Definitely worth going in and having a look at those.